No one expected that a simple sentence from Park Jimin, one of the BTS members who is known for being calm and soft-hearted, would shake the hearts of millions of fans around the world. In an exclusive interview released through an upcoming documentary, Jimin finally uncovers the secrets he's been keeping secret. About Jungkook's gaze, about his unspoken feelings, and about how one glance from the colleague he thought was his brother for years destroyed his deepest emotional fortress. The interview took place in a simple room, with soft lighting and an intimate atmosphere that made every word feel honest. Jimin sat down wearing a gray sweater, his hair allowed to fall to his forehead, and every now and then he stared down, as if weighing whether the words that would come out would be too heavy to say. When the interviewer asked about the most emotional moment in his relationship with Jungkook, Jimin was silent for a long time. His smile was faint, his eyes glazed over. Then he said in an almost whispering voice, "His gaze. It's the hardest thing I've ever forgotten." The sentence sounds simple, but for anyone who has followed BTS's long journey, the words are like opening an old sheet that has never been completely closed. The gaze of Jungkook, who has been known as a symbol of his charisma on stage, it turns out for Jimin has a much more personal meaning. He added, "There's something there, something that made me realize that we both carry the same burden, but bear it in different ways." In the documentary that is now being produced by the HYB film team, the moment is one of the most emotional. One crew member even recounted that after the interview was over, Jimin sat alone in a corner of the room for a few minutes, staring blankly at the floor. "We all know it's not part of acting or a gimmick. It's really real. She's holding back a lot of things behind the smiles we've seen so far," said a staffer involved in the filming process. After the confession was released in a short trailer to the public, cyberspace immediately exploded. The keyword Jungkook's eyes became a global trend in just 2 hours. Thousands of fans began uploading snippets of old videos, rewatching any interactions between the two in the past. Some highlighted the yet-to-come in Busan concert, where Jimin was seen smiling faintly as Jungkook stared at him on stage before singing the final part of the song, For Youth. For some, the moment now looks like an emotional signal that can only be understood after Jimin's statement. "It's not that I hate him," Jimin continued in the interview. "It's quite the opposite. I always felt like he kept a lot to himself. Sometimes I want to talk, want to know what he really feels, but I don't want to make it any harder. That look made me feel guilty. I knew I needed someone, but I kept quiet. It is as if it breaks the heart of anyone who hears it." Over the years, Jimin and Jungkook's relationship has often been the subject of conversation. They are known to be very close, even almost like siblings. But behind the familiarity, fans often feel a change in mood, from mutual laughter to silence that is difficult to explain. There was a moment when they seemed to be moving away from each other, as if an emotional distance began to form without a word. And now, Jimin's confession seems to be an indirect explanation for all the speculation that has ever circulated. Some longtime BTS fans wrote deep reflections on online community forums. "I think the gaze is a form of silent communication between them," wrote one user. "They may not always speak, but their eyes have enough to say everything. About taste, about regret, about longing that did not have time to say." Jimin's confession is also a rare moment where the emotions of an idol look so human. In Korean entertainment culture that tends to maintain a professional image, this kind of honesty rarely appears in public spaces. But Jimin chose not to cover the wound. He lets the world see his vulnerability, and in that way he makes himself even more lovable. Hours after the interview aired, Jungkook posted a photo on his personal account. A twilight sky with a soft orange color, accompanied by a brief description. "Some things do not need to be explained. That's it." But for fans, that sentence is enough to make thousands of speculations pop up. Is that a response to Jimin? Did Jungkook also keep the same feelings all this time? One BTS staffer who knew the two since their debut said that Jimin and Jungkook's relationship has always had a complicated dynamic. "They are both very sensitive emotionally," he said. "Jungkook is very protective of Jimin, but on the other hand, Jimin is always worried if his presence actually makes Jungkook burdened. They take care of each other, but also hurt each other unintentionally. This can be seen from their long journey as group mates. Since his trainee days, Jimin has been known to be more expressive and open to feelings, while Jungkook is more reserved, choosing to channel his emotions through music and gestures on stage. The difference in the way they express themselves is often a source of tension, but also the reason why they understand each other so well. Old fans may still remember an old interview in which Jungkook once said that Jimin was the hardest person to scold but also the easiest to make me feel guilty about. Now, after so many years, the words seem to find their own context. After BTS entered the military, many felt that the emotional distance between the two was increasingly felt. Jimin and Jungkook rarely appear together in official photos, and when they do, their expressions seem more formal than ever. However, some reports suggest that the two kept in contact with each other in silence, especially when one of them was having a hard time in the barracks. Their relationship is like two parallel lines, said one Korean pop culture analyst. Never collide, but always walk close together. And every time they stared at each other on stage, there was a moment of silence that could not be described in words. When the documentary is released later, many fans believe that Jimin's confession moment will be the most memorable part, because behind every statement, there is a layer of honesty that is rarely seen in the modern entertainment world. He wasn't just talking about Jungkook's gaze. He was talking about how one can feel lost even when that person is still by his side. I just want him to know that I saw him, Jimin said at the end of the interview. Not as BTS's Jungkook, but as someone who fought like I fought too. Sometimes I think, maybe we've been hiding behind the stage too long. We forget that the taste also needs a place to breathe. The words were like opening a door to an emotional space that had been tightly closed. Since the confession, many fans have written messages of support to the two, hoping they can speak privately after the end of the conscription period. Some even created a global project called We See You Both, as a tribute to their honesty and courage in showing their fragile side. This recognition also reflects a new dynamic in the way Korean idols express themselves. In an era when authenticity is the most cherished value, Jimin seems to have chosen a difficult path, to open himself as he is without filters. Many entertainment journalists considered that Jimin's move would change the way the public viewed the emotional connection between the members of the group in the future. As time went on, the topic of Jungkook's gaze became not just a subject of gossip, but a symbol of something bigger, about silent communication, about closeness that doesn't need words, about how two people can understand each other even when the world demands them to keep smiling. Some analysts even called this recognition the most human moment in BTS history, because behind global achievements, millions in album sales, and international awards, there is another side that is rarely seen: fatigue, loneliness, and time-tested relationships. When the documentary footage was recirculated, Jimin was seen staring at the camera with teary eyes. He did not try to hold back his tears, as if to assert that sadness is also part of growing up. I don't want to forget that look, he said, because that's where I learned that true closeness doesn't always mean unharmed happiness. In several separate interviews, Jungkook briefly spoke about the way he views his group mates. I respect Jimin. He had a very soft heart, sometimes too soft for this world, she said. Although it does not directly allude to Jimin's confession, many fans believe that the words are a form of tacit recognition of the same feelings. Now, ahead of BTS's return after the end of the military service, the relationship between the two is back in the spotlight. Many hope that they will come back together with renewed energy, not as two people who hold each other's wounds, but as two best friends who have gone through an emotional storm and found maturity in honesty.